Hey there folks, welcome to the second, and last video for chapter 36. Yeah, I know, this is a super quick chapter. Let's get into it. So at the end of the previous video for chapter 36, we touched on what happens when human beings affect the population dynamics, population survival of other species, whether or not we maintain our resources sustainably so we can have them for a long time or not. Now, however, let's look at something even more personal. Let's look at our population and how our populations are growing and changing. Before you is a set of graphs showing male versus female parts of the population per million, and in thousands, depending on the size of the population, for a few countries back in 2005. Now, when populations have birth rates and death rates that are relatively even, the rate of increase for those populations is roughly zero. Yes, new individuals are being born and old individuals are dying, but overall at about the same rate. So the overall size of the population isn't really changing. Right now, however, human beings are undergoing what is called a demographic transition. We have been slowly coasting into an area where the world population is undergoing a change in how large its birth and death rates are for human beings. They used to be both fairly high, but roughly equal. So both birth and death rates used to be pretty high. However, in recent centuries, birth rates and death rates have both been coming down. I want you to imagine, say, how long people used to live back in the Dark Ages, but also how many children they used to have. People used to have enormous families, but they didn't live very long. Now, however, we tend to, on average, live much longer, but also have smaller families. And this is what this demographic transition is. Birth and death rates remain pretty close to being equal overall, on average, for our world population. But whereas they both used to be pretty high, now they're both slowly calming down. What we can get aside from that rate of increase and how that's changing from graphs like this is the overall age structure of a population. Each of these graphs shows you, for a particular population, let's say Mexico in 2005, what proportion in millions, so in millions down here at the bottom, reached a particular age in that population, male versus female. We have them for Mexico, Denmark, and Italy. We also have them broken down into three categories: pre-reproductive, so children; reproductive, folks that are in their reproductive prime, great time to have kids, start a family; and older folks that are either unable to or are primarily past the time of their lives when they want to settle down and have children. What we can see from this kind of thing is what proportion of men versus women do we have overall in the entire population, but also inside a particular age group. How many men versus women do we have? We can also see things like the fertility rate for that year of a particular population. A fertility rate for a population, especially humans, is defined as the average number of children that a woman will have over her entire lifetime. And when you get a large number of women in their childbearing years having children, it creates something called population momentum. Those women in their childbearing years are having children, and because there are lots of women able to have children, odds go up that you shall have lots of children. When those many children later on are finally able to have families of their own, the population continues to get even larger, because then you have lots of the last generation's children children having new children of their own. And then the next generation is larger and can have more children of theirs. And as you know, so on and so forth. And you end up with this sort of bell shape, like we see here in Mexico, where each population is a bit bigger than the one before it. All right? This is a sign of high fertility rate and a population momentum situation in a population. Compare that with, say, Italy over here, where you have this group of men and women, roughly between ages 30 and 50, that sharply started having far fewer children. And you can see how much smaller the groups of men and women younger than them end up being. That's going in the opposite direction. All right? Last thing I want to talk about for this chapter is our ecological footprint. And I may sound like a hippie for a moment, but bear with me. Human beings are terrifically powerful. We can walk on any part of this planet. There's no part of this planet Earth that we cannot go to. We can eat almost anything we want to. We can make almost anything we want to. We can use almost any resource on the face of the planet that we can lay our hands on. But that means that we end up using a lot of things without realizing that we're doing it. All of the tools and the homes and the fuel and the cars and the food and the clothing that we use every day and that we enjoy, whether or not we really notice how much work it takes to make them and whether or not we really value them, all of these things take resources to make, and it produces waste to make them in the first place. Like to read a book? I love to read a book. I don't like a Kindle. I love a book. I know I'm responsible for trees that get cut down because it takes wood to make that paper. Now, thank God, a lot of books are printed on recycled paper now, so we can recycle and recycle, and that's a lot better. But there's a lot of other places where we use things and it creates waste, and we are not recycling. Or how we use those resources isn't as efficient as it could be. We could do better. We're working on it, but we're not there yet. So when you consider, say in lab this week, how you enjoy products and what you use, try and think about what did it take to make all the things that you enjoy. Because all of the resources that it took to make what you use and all of the fuel that it requires to get you where you're going all contributes to your personal carbon footprint, which is the impact you leave as a single human being and that we all leave together as an entire human population on our natural habitat because of what we take out of it to make what we use. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap it up for Chapter 36. I will see you next time. Bye, folks.